And you get the attention, as you said.
Yes.
So now it's the possibility that everybody wants to know something about Greece because all the newspapers are writing about Greece.
I'm a little bit more pessimistic because I have to remind you that
Those Greeks.
Argentina speaks Spanish, and the Spanish population is half of the planet. Okay, that we come again in the distribution situation. I mean, okay, maybe the focus is on Greece now because it has a crisis, but also Portugal has a crisis, Ireland has a crisis, half of Europe has a crisis. So what? And of course, don't forget that what I told you before. Small country speaks Greek. Okay, problem to keep things moving. I mean, to an audience outside.
So you have to keep moving.
Because, look, we have what we have to do. Because we are searching, we have to express ourselves. But we have not the mechanism. So we can, promote our films, sell our films. Money comes back through the money in the production. And, it's... It's can't compare with Argentina, okay? Because Argentina is something else, completely something else.
Of course, Argentina is something else, but I I really wanted to talk about the interrelation of focus and if it comes to Switzerland, we have seen much more and read much more about Greece in the last 2 years than about Portugal, which there is a special attention on your country.
And also, yes, I agree with you that, when something happens politically or socially, it's a shock. It's a shock to the system, and that also, in a strange way, has ripples onto biology, psychology, and biology. It's all like all of our bodies wake up suddenly, from hypnosis. From a self-hypnosis. So, cinema, art in general is the first one that's going to mirror that. And the thing is, what happens to maintain this kind of awakeness? So that it's the Greek new awake and not just the new wave or the new wake as in funeral. And that's where... You like that? Okay, you can use it. I feel very awake in Greece now, and I see lots of people awake around me, which was not my experience 5 years ago when I returned. And it was not my experience when, 18 years old, I decided to leave my country very specifically because there was something about Greece that did not do it. I didn't feel challenged, or I didn't feel like I could communicate with something, with a living organism. And something that keeps us going on right now is the fact that for the first time, filmmakers are not insular entities. Something like this would be unheard of even 5 years ago. For us to talk with each other, to be genuinely interested and curious about each other's film and to join forces, that it matters a lot to me to see Yannis's or Argyris' next film. Like, it matters. Like, it's a vital sign of an organism being alive. And that's new, this kind of solidarity and this kind of camaraderie is something completely new in Greece. But I am personally really worried. This whole thing about when the pie is small, then there is war, there is civil war. I'm not so optimistic. If something doesn't happen, for example, everyone says money. I don't think it's money. I think it's education. The fact that we don't have a film school and people do not learn how to write a proper screenplay or to dare to not write a proper screenplay and understand that this is still cinema and not apologizing for it, or You know what I mean? And not systematize a little bit like what a producer does and what the editor does and what an assistant director does. Basically to make it into an industry, into a trade. To me, this is it's a crime. It's a crime for a country, a Western country, a European country to not have film education. So I'm pessimistic about that because we're just fireworks. And literally, I don't know if, I've produced a few films in the last 5 years for my friends and colleagues. But now I'm exhausted. Like, I'm not sure how long I can go on making films with nothing and just based on camaraderie.
Still coming back to what I was wondering, listening to the talk, I was really wondering, making movies despite of the difficult situation, or maybe
that's
because of, or is the...
Every film is a different case. Our film, me and Jan did a film that if the crisis wouldn't exist and if the situation wasn't that, there wouldn't be the film. Because what we did is like, we're talking about the situation in Greece and we're talking about the tragic incident that happened 2 years ago and everything. And we said, okay, let's go and make a film right now about this and try to make it now and exhibit it now, because it's going to be like kind of the first time about a film talking about the political and the social situation now, because we were kind of in Greece, we're kind of fed up about films, about period films, and again in another film about the civil war, and another film about that, and another film about that, which some of them were really good films, but then again, it was something like overanalyzed and something like we didn't, Greek cinema didn't really want to face the mirror and talk about itself. So that was our case, but every film is a different case, and maybe it wouldn't be made. It wouldn't have been made the same way if it wasn't for the financial crisis, the recession, and all these things. Because if it wasn't, me being a bit more mature on Greek production than Jan, I would maybe have said that, okay, we have a nice story here, let's wait for some state funding and blah, 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 blah. But I knew that this would not happen and the film wouldn't be that fresh anymore and talk about this. Because now you write a script and if you wait for public funding, for state funding, you might have to wait for 4 or 5 years, so it's not the same thing. And what we wanted to do with Jan is make a film now, make a film now about now,
So it really has like different aspects. When you see like once the difficult situation, as Athina also said, is an awakening, so it's inspiring, so you want to talk about it. It's the subjects, the things that you want to make a film about. And then you have the other side of it, maybe the filmmaker that says, okay, but in order to make a film, I need some support. And then you realize in that situation, maybe it's difficult to get that because there is no infrastructure for it. So you are struggling to make that film, and maybe, so you are inspired, and what is happening around you is interesting, but you don't have an infrastructure.
Did you actually ever talk about putting together a production corporation? Because several younger German filmmakers were actively toying around with the idea to basically join forces, have one production company together so as to better, let's say, work the system.
I mean, yeah, that would be a fantastic idea if there was a production company that had, somewhere to apply to for funding or private investors to give. Actually, I believe that there are many private investors who are interested in Greek cinema. It's just that the law for tax credit has not come into effect. the law for participation in the making of a theatrical movie by the TV stations has not come into effect for 20 years now. So basically there is no law that gives that is in effect that is protecting the interests of producers or the interests of investors.
And so, if you work on this problem now, is there like persons you can approach in the political world, or it seems for you?
Yeah, I mean, last year there was a whole movement called Filmmakers in the Mist, and
again.
Yes, but that was something that for the first time that gave.
It was mostly inspired by gorillas in the mist that were getting extinguished.
Yeah, exactly. So for the first time there was a movement by about 250 filmmakers who got together in order to push for the creation of the Greek Academy of Motion Pictures, which didn't exist before, now exists. For a meritocracy in the way the best films are being voted by the membership of the Academy, and also for the debate and the writing of the new law for cinema, which for the first time it was proposed. It was written and in collaboration with lots of filmmakers, and then it was proposed by our Minister of Culture, and it was actually passed at the Parliament. So within a year, many things have happened. It's just that they have not come into effect. So now we're really worried that there is this law that we did everything for it to be passed, which is not a revolutionary law. It's basically all the stuff that you have in Switzerland and everyone in Europe has. Basic stuff that, all European countries have. It took us 20 years to have that. But, it still needs to be...
Why is it not in effect? It has passed, but it's not in effect?
Because things are slow in Greece.
That means
and because
bureaucracy
is a monster in Greece, which, a multi-headed Medusa monster. So basically you think that you're making a step, and then bureaucracy takes you 5 steps back, and then it takes another 2 years to make that step that you thought you had made. So it's, the public sector is...
And also it's because this new law about cinema affects a lot the media and the TV stations, the private TV stations. And like everywhere in the world, much more in Greece, which is kind of a little bit more corrupted, the media have a very strong links with politicians and everything. So they would make the best for these things not to get in effect, because then they have to pay out of their pocket and out of their huge profits a little part for the Greek films.